How old are you?
Oh, I'm 32.
Are you married? Do you have kids? Like, what's your status?
Oh, I'm single. I'm not having children. I purposely did not want to get married,
Mm,
primarily because, quite frankly, we all got to be honest about ourselves about what we're going to be bringing to relationships. I'm personally in therapy. I have a life coach, and I'm dealing with my own issues from childhood. I can't bring children into that. That's just irresponsible.
okay. So what you're saying is you want to have a guy in your life. You want to have a top shelf man. You feel like you're doing the work on yourself, but you're having a hard time finding it, right?
Yes, it's very difficult to deal with the um and I hate saying this, especially as a woman, but the especially in my community, we're almost approaching an 80% out of wedlock birth rate. So you can imagine the quality of males that's pumping out, and it's bleeding into other communities as well.
Hmm.
So and generally speaking, what happens in the Black community ends up happening everywhere else later on. So it seems like no matter where you're going, you're finding males who have very, very little self-esteem, very little self-confidence, but they demand that you be smaller in order to compensate for their lack of manhood.
Okay, so let me circle back to you. So you've watched my channel for a while, so you know that
Yes.
I tell you guys men are success objects, women are beauty objects.
Yes.
How tall are you? How much do you weigh?
Oh, I'm 5'10" and I'm 162.
Okay.
Mhm.
Sounds a little bit heavy to me.
Actually, no.
Or are you
If
all
you
muscle?
Yeah. I kettlebell 3 times a week, box 4 times a week. So, if I could show you a picture of me, then you'd see. Like, I'm
Well, you can
not
turn on your
actually.
camera if you know,
Oh,
want to indulge me.
oh, I'm not comfortable being on camera in front of a whole bunch of people. I'm a little bit
Okay,
shy.
that's fine.
However, I can always send you my IG.
So, well, if you drop it in the private chat, everybody else in private chat's going to see it. Just heads
Oh,
up. So, if you're okay
um,
with that, I'll take a look at it and I'll comment on that. But that's the most important, component. That's the one that I find for the most part women overlook the
mhm.
most is they're like, I want a good guy. I want a guy that's sorted. I don't want to deal with his daddy issues. I don't want to deal with the fact that he was raised by a single mom and he hasn't worked on his shit. I don't want to deal with a wimp. I want to be with a man.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, what do you look like? Like, are you the kind of woman that's going to attract that kind of guy? Because there's guys out there looking for beautiful, feminine Black women, right?
Yes. So I'm not saying this to kind of brag, and I'm not saying this to kind of boost myself up. The usual comparison I get is Naomi Campbell.
Okay. So why are you having a hard time then if you look like Naomi Campbell?
Because when you're looking at so one of the drawbacks of being quote unquote pretty or beautiful is you attract everybody. And a lot of the times what I'm finding is the men that you would want to speak to, they're kind of, I can't quite put my finger on it. There's a particular kind of confidence that you want in a man, that you want because you know that he's
I'm just
capable.
throwing that up on the screen just in case anybody doesn't know who Naomi Campbell is, right? So this is what we're talking about. This is what you look like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be happy to show you my actual picture if I could show it to you privately so you could see that I'm not lying. But yeah, like there's a particular kind of masculinity that I grew up with. I grew up with a very strong father,
Hmm.
a very
You got a good
strong family.
relationship with him?
Yeah, he's awesome. My dad,
Okay.
I'm daddy's girl till this day.
Where do you live?
Um, actually in Canada. I'm in Ontario.
Okay. Do you live in a big city like Toronto, Ottawa, Windsor?
I'm in Toronto, which is another problem. A lot of
A lot
liberal
of liberal
men, a
dudes.
lot of man buns, a lot of skinny jeans, and dudes who are it's a lot more feminine energy than I'm accustomed to, especially since I come from a very conservative West Indian background where the
Okay.
men are men.
So what you need to do is you need to put yourself in an environment where these top shelf men are. Tennis
Yeah.
clubs, boating clubs, yachting clubs. You need to start doing like find stuff that you're genuinely interested in that you like doing. Like, don't just make it up just to put yourself in a room where there's hot guys with money that are well put together and alpha and
Yeah.
have a father and mother and all that sort of stuff. But find stuff that you like and start spending more time doing that and interacting with people in those environments. What do you do for a living?
Oh, I do. I have my own company. I do business development.
Mm,
I also have started a not-for-profit, or I'm working with a not-for-profit that specializes in working with men who are victims of sexual abuse. I think that's a huge issue. So that's one of the things that I'm kind of passionate about.
Okay, so one of the things that I will say,
Hmm.
I don't like it when women get involved in spaces where men should be championing, resolving the problem, right? Like I find a lot of women want to fix men
Yeah.
and build the better beta, which, you know, we talked about earlier in the part of the book. And like, women will see, you're kind of at a precipice at an age, because I've said, you know, women will overlook a broke, somewhat incompetent, hot guy in his early 20s. Like she'll look past that if he's got a plan, like if he looks like he has promise. And then as time moves on, it's kind of like a sliding scale. But by the time he's like 40 or so, he could look hot and he could have a plan, but if he's still broke and doesn't have anything to show for himself, he's not very valuable in the sexual marketplace, unless it's just for the alpha seed part of the hypergamy equation, right? So like, you're trying to starting to transition from early part to that part over there.
Yeah, it's
I mean, you've got one foot in each bucket, right?
Yeah,
Leaning from one side to the other.
And it's very, very difficult, because my daddy always told me, like he said, ambition is something you can't teach someone. It's just an inherent, it's just something that's just an intangible thing that's just kind of there.
Right. So so just to stop you for a sec, just to keep it on point, because I got a bunch of people waiting. I want to make sure I get through everybody. I mean, you can book a call too, right? You know, if you want to schedule coaching for one-on-one, that's always available to everybody. But what I want to say is, going back to the earlier point, what you're talking about here again is fixing and building the better beta. Like I'm getting involved in a nonprofit that, you know, fixes guys that have these, you know, discrepancies and a passion. Like, don't buy a busted ass car trying to fix it.
Oh, no.
Go and order yourself that brand new car with all the treatment that you want. Because if you're not married, previously married, don't have any kids in tow, you say you're hot, you look like Naomi Campbell, I bet there's a lot of top shelf men out there that would line up for a chance to date you, right? So put yourself in that environment and expose yourself to that, rather than worrying about trying to build a better beta.
Yeah. So the problem is that it's not so much the attracting men with money, because that's not an issue. But as you know, money doesn't equal character. Money and character it's one thing if you're dating a guy who doesn't make a lot of money, but if something was to happen, he'll fight for you and he'll protect you. And it's another thing if you're dating a guy who makes 6 figures, but he can't take a punch, and he's kind, you know.
I'll say this: money magnifies character. So if you're an asshole, if you have a lot of money, you're going to become more of an asshole.
That's true.
If you're a weak beta, you're still going to be a big ass weak beta with a lot of money. You're going to start simping.
Them.
Right. So, I mean, there's a lot of guys like that out there, because Toronto is a very liberal, left-leaning city. Most of society subscribes to a female first primary social order. They want to bend the knee so they can become less, so she can become more. So they'll simp for girls. You know, they'll throw all, and that doesn't turn on women, as you've experienced, which is what I keep trying to tell you guys. And it's nice that we have some women coming on, you know, from time to time to share some of these experiences. But that's not what they want. They want a guy to lead. They want to look up to a giant. They want to follow. But you have to be a guy that's worthy of that, right? So again, back to my point, stop trying to build a better beta. Stop, you know, trying to fix shit. Just put yourself in an environment where you're exposing yourself to these top shelf men, and be fastidious with your time and selective. So if the guy's simpy, if he's beta, if he doesn't turn you on, next, right?
Right on. Okay, fair. Thank you so much, Rich.
Fair enough. All right. We'll see you later.
Later.
Ciao.